At first 3IATLAS was just another visitor from the stars, quiet, distant, and forgettable. But in late 2025, everything changed. It stopped drifting. It started steering. Today, scientists believe this mysterious interstellar object may be heading for a direct encounter with Jupiter, a planet powerful enough to reshape entire worlds. But what they fear most is that this might not be an accident. Stay with me till the end, because what's coming on March 16th, 2026 could change everything we think we know about life and who might be watching us. In early 2019, a faint light appeared at the edge of human detection, captured first by a few deep sky telescopes scanning the dark void between the stars. It wasn't anything unusual at first glance, just a quiet blur moving steadily across the black. Astronomers marked it down, gave it a name, and added it to a growing list of interstellar visitors that pass through our solar system from time to time. They called it 3IATLAS. For months, it was little more than a curiosity, a dim point of light barely bright enough to register on digital sensors, far from the excitement of public attention. But even then, buried in the early data, something about it didn't fit the pattern. Comets are like cosmic drift. They tumble, spin, and streak through space, pulled and twisted by gravity and radiation. Their movements are messy, unpredictable, full of subtle wobbles and irregular shifts. But 3I Atlas wasn't behaving that way. Its path across the stars looked clean to clean. It didn't spin wildly like most frozen rocks do. Instead, it glided, smooth, deliberate, and strangely balanced, as if something unseen was keeping it steady. For scientists used to dealing with randomness, that kind of precision was unsettling. When NASA's Minor Planet Center released the first orbital data, a few independent astronomers noticed the anomaly right away. Its speed was extraordinary, far faster than a typical comet ejected from our own solar system could achieve. That meant one thing: 3I Atlas had come from somewhere else, deep interstellar space, far beyond the Oort cloud, possibly from another star entirely. The second interstellar object ever detected, following the famous Oumuamua in 2017. But where Oumuamua had been irregular and tumbling, flashing sunlight like a spinning shard of metal, this one seemed different, calm, steady, almost mechanical in its grace. At first, the data was too limited to draw conclusions. It could be an illusion, a trick of limited observation, or a bad calibration in one of the telescope arrays. So teams across the world began tracking it more closely. The Pan-STARRS Observatory in Hawaii joined in, followed by amateur astronomers across Europe and the US as more measurements came in. The calculations became more precise, and the mystery only deepened. The path of 3I Atlas cut through the outer solar system like a razor straight, unbothered by gravitational tugs that should have nudged it off course. Every new observation confirmed the same strange reality. This object wasn't behaving like a natural wanderer. By the summer of 2019, the object had brightened slightly as it neared the warmth of our sun. Normally, this is when a comet begins to show its signature tail jets of gas and dust blowing outward, forming a glowing trail millions of miles long. But 3I Atlas didn't bloom in the usual way. Its light increased slowly, evenly, as if the material on its surface was evaporating in a uniform layer, not in bursts. Astronomers expected a flicker, a spin, maybe even a breakup event if it was fragile. But the object held together perfectly. That stability was remarkably unconfusing. Meanwhile, research teams began to share theories. Some thought it could be made of a dense, metallic compound unlike anything seen before. Others suggested its shape might be aerodynamic, built in a way that minimized pressure from sunlight. There was even a fringe idea whispered among small online forums. What if it wasn't natural at all? The thought was laughed off in official circles, of course. Space is full of oddities, and science prefers patience over panic. Still, the whispers lingered, because deep down, some couldn't shake the feeling that 3I Atlas was controlled. When data from the European Space Agency's Gaia Observatory arrived, it helped refine the object's trajectory even further. Astronomers could now predict where it would be weeks, even months ahead, with incredible accuracy. But one line in the data made a few experts uneasy: the tiny, almost invisible adjustments in its speed. Not random flickers, not noise. Tiny, consistent accelerations that didn't match gravitational influence. Something was pushing it like pressure alone couldn't explain it. That same unexplained effect had been seen before with Almu. The similarities were too close to ignore. Public awareness started to build as science journalists picked up the story. Headlines called it the new visitor from the stars and the calm comet. News anchors smiled while showing simple animations of a glowing rock sailing toward the sun. Most viewers saw it as another pretty space story, interesting for a moment, then forgotten. But inside observatories and control rooms, researchers stared at the raw data in silence. They knew this object wasn't just another icy fragment. It was behaving with a kind of discipline that made no sense for a natural body. Then came the infrared readings. Using specialized instruments, scientists tried to determine the surface temperature and composition of 3I Atlas. The data came back strange. The object didn't absorb heat like rock or ice, it reflected it evenly across its surface. That suggested a smooth exterior, not a rough or jagged one. Some sections even reflected infrared light in a narrow band, almost like polished material. If it was real, it meant this comet was unlike any other in recorded history. NASA's official reports avoided speculation, but off the record, a few astronomers admitted the word artificial crossed their minds. In the months that followed, tracking became harder as the object slipped behind the sun from Earth's perspective. Telescopes lost contact temporarily, and updates grew infrequent. But computer models continued to simulate its path, predicting where it would reappear once it came around again. The models showed something peculiar: its speed and direction didn't align perfectly with what would be expected after passing near the sun. It had changed course, slightly but unmistakably, almost as if it had adjusted its path on purpose. No one wanted to say it aloud. After all, this was a scientific community skeptical, grounded, allergic to wild claims. But the numbers didn't lie. 3-1, Atlas wasn't just reacting to gravity. It was moving as if it had intent. Small course corrections, predictable acceleration, smooth trajectory. It was almost graceful, like a satellite guided by an unseen hand. And if that were true, then the implications were staggering. Something built it, or something built what's inside it. By late 2019, the story faded from mainstream headlines, replaced by other cosmic news and discoveries closer to home. But in small research groups, especially among independent space watchers, the fascination remained. They called it the silent traveler. Night after night, they tracked its faint glow, watching as it drifted farther from the inner solar system, steady, unwavering, like it had somewhere important to go. Even then, nobody imagined that 6 years later, in 2025, this same quiet object would begin to change direction again, that it would set its sights on something massive, powerful, and dangerous. For now, in 2019, it was just a mystery, an elegant puzzle gliding across the stars. Too strange to ignore, but too quiet to understand. Yet behind that calm motion, there was already something happening. Something deliberate, waiting for its time to be noticed. Asterisk. At first, nobody thought much of it. After all, space is full of strange numbers, odd readings, and small mysteries that usually fade away after a few follow-up observations. But with 3IATLAS, the numbers didn't fade. They got stranger the more scientists looked. The first anomaly came from its light curve, the way its brightness rose and fell as it tumbled through the darkness. Every known comet flickers as sunlight bounces off its uneven surface. It's random, noisy, like watching the reflection of a campfire on rippling water. But 3IATLAS shone with a rhythm, a steady pulse that repeated every 9 hours, as if the object itself was rotating in perfect balance. Some said it was the most stable light pattern ever recorded for a body of that size. Others whispered that nothing natural could spin so smoothly. When the initial data reached observatories across Europe and the United States, a quiet debate began. Was this an error in the instruments? Could distant dust or cosmic rays have interfered with the readings? Teams recalibrated their telescopes, cleaned sensors, and rechecked timestamps. Yet each new observation confirmed the same thing. A rotation so precise it felt engineered. Even stranger, the object's brightness didn't change as it moved closer to the sun. Every comet brightens as ice and gas begin to vaporize. That's what makes a comet a comet. But 3IATLAS remained calm, steady, almost indifferent to the heat. Its coma, that glowing halo that normally blooms around a comet's core, refused to appear. It was like watching a stone glide through fire without ever melting. By the spring of 2020, a few astronomers began meeting online, swapping images and comparing notes. They tried to keep it quiet, afraid of the kind of attention that can ruin reputations. They called themselves, half-jokingly, the Midnight Committee. Each member had seen something they couldn't explain, but none wanted to sound like the people who once claimed to see UFOs in telescope lenses. The committee's private data threads read like pieces of a puzzle: unexplained thermal readings, gravitational deviations, the faint trace of microwaves coming from the object's direction. Nothing conclusive, but all pointing toward a single unsettling idea that 3I Atlas was behaving as though it were adjusting to its surroundings. NASA's official position stayed simple. This was just another interstellar comet, maybe with an unusual composition or dense structure. Press releases used cautious phrases like non-gravitational acceleration, likely due to outgassing. But inside the research community, that explanation was wearing thin. Outgassing, the release of vapor from a melting comet, usually creates random bursts of movement. What they were seeing wasn't random. It was gradual, deliberate, almost planned. When mission analysts at JPL plotted its course, they noticed a faint but consistent drift, like a ship quietly changing lanes. Over weeks, that drift added up to hundreds of thousands of miles off the expected track. Across the ocean, the European Southern Observatory tried to capture high-resolution images with the Very Large Telescope in Chile. The photos came back grainy but curious. small patches of reflected light along the object's length, as if its surface was made of panels rather than rock. It might have been an optical illusion, a trick of cosmic dust, or it might have been the first hint that this visitor wasn't built by chance. The story began leaking in online astronomy forums, quickly spreading through late-night podcasts and YouTube channels. For every scientist trying to keep the discussion rational, there were 10 voices calling it proof of alien design. The Midnight Committee disbanded soon after, worried that the noise would drown out the data. Then came the second anomaly, a faint burst of radio noise, too short to be a signal but too structured to be static. It lasted less than a second, captured by a deep space antenna in Australia. The pattern didn't match any known transmission, and the frequency was far below the range used by human satellites. Analysts replayed it again and again, finding a sequence of evenly spaced pulses. It could have been coincidence. Space is full of random bursts, but this one originated from the exact coordinates of 3I, Atlas, at that exact moment. The coincidence felt too perfect. The data was quietly forwarded to NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and then to SETI for review. Publicly, they said nothing. In newsrooms, the name 3I Atlas started to reappear, buried beneath headlines about political shifts and weather disasters. A few outlets wrote brief updates: astronomers track unusual comet from beyond the solar system, but the deeper story remained confined to scientists and online enthusiasts. The few journalists who tried to dig further ran into polite refusals and no comment replies. Some even reported that their requests for data access were suddenly delayed or redirected. It might have been routine bureaucracy. Or maybe, just maybe, someone wanted the story to cool down. Meanwhile, amateur astronomers across North America were watching the skies with backyard telescopes. They noticed something the major observatories had missed: faint, symmetrical flares of light appearing ahead of the object, like soft beacons in its path. The flares appeared and vanished in perfect intervals, almost guiding it. A few observers logged the times and compared notes online. The pattern repeated roughly every 12 hours, synchronized with the object's rotation. For those who believed 3I Atlas was natural, it was a curious coincidence. For those who didn't, For months, NASA's Psyche probe had been one of those quiet, background missions, the kind most people never think about. It was built to study a metallic asteroid orbiting between Mars and Jupiter, a relic from the dawn of the solar system. Everything was running smoothly, every transmission routine, every data packet perfectly timed. Until one ordinary morning in late 2025, when the stream went dark. At first, engineers thought it was a software glitch. Spacecraft lose contact all the time. Solar flares, cosmic radiation, static bursts from Jupiter's storms. But this was different. The blackout didn't match any known interference pattern. It wasn't gradual, like a weak signal fading out. It was sudden, like someone had flipped a switch. Inside NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the mission control screens froze midstream. One moment, Psyche was transmitting high-resolution images of deep space, clean, stable data. The next moment, the feed dropped to static. Engineers scrambled to reboot systems, check relays, run diagnostic loops. Everything looked fine on their end. But Psyche wasn't answering. It wasn't malfunctioning, it was silent. The timing made it even stranger. The loss happened just as Psyche's cameras turned toward a region of sky that included the trajectory of a faint, fast-moving object, 3I ATLAS. Nobody thought much of it at first. After all, space is filled with coincidences. But when the connection finally came back hours later, the data that returned wasn't what anyone expected. Entire sections of the transmission log were missing, not corrupted, not scrambled, deleted. Whole time windows, just gone, cleanly cut from the record. In one of the recovered files, a line of system text appeared for just a moment before vanishing. Data relay rerouted to restricted channel. No one could explain what that meant. NASA never uses restricted routing for open science missions. It was as if someone or something had intercepted Psyche's data before it reached Earth, officially. NASA's public explanation was short and forgettable. Solar interference temporarily disrupted communications, but the people inside the lab weren't buying it. They'd seen how solar interference looks on a telemetry graph, random, messy, full of noise spikes. This blackout was too clean, too sharp. It wasn't natural static. It looked like an intentional cut. Behind closed doors, an emergency data review began. A handful of top engineers and astrophysicists were called in under non-disclosure agreements. Access to Psyche's raw feed was locked down, encrypted with temporary passwords that expired every hour. Even long-time mission staff were suddenly locked out of their own systems. That's when the rumors started. Quiet whispers in the hallways. Messages that disappeared after being read once. Someone leaked a screenshot from the internal communication system. It showed a file name buried in the system logs. ATLAS_contact_log_47B. Most people wouldn't have thought twice about it. But those who remembered Psyche's earlier blackouts knew the number 47 had appeared before, in a mysterious sound file labeled Eshu 47. WAVI, connected to an earlier anomaly. That single word, contact, sent shivers through the lab. Soon after, NASA's Deep Space Network, the massive array of antennas that talked to spacecraft across the solar system, reported strange static bursts. Normally, engineers could filter out background radiation from the sun or distant pulsars. But this was different. The static came in rhythmic patterns, evenly spaced, timed to the second. Almost like pulses. When independent radio observers noticed similar patterns coming from the same region of space where Psyche had gone dark. The story started to leak. Small science blogs picked it up first, then podcasts, then major outlets. Within a few days, the internet was buzzing with theories. Everything from alien contact to classified military experiments. NASA tried to get ahead of it with a press release, insisting the data loss was routine system maintenance. But behind the scenes, the agency was in full lockdown. Employees were told to avoid discussing unverified anomalies. External access to the Psyche data servers was cut. Some engineers said their emails were being monitored. Others claimed that physical hard drives containing backup data had been taken by government couriers for review. One insider, posting anonymously on a private astronomy forum, wrote just 6 words before their account was deleted. "We lost more than data." That post was captured and shared across multiple channels before disappearing everywhere else. Screenshots circulated like digital ghosts, proof of something people weren't supposed to see. Weeks later, during a closed-door debriefing, a technician reportedly broke protocol and admitted that before the feed died, Psyche's cameras had captured a faint reflection. Something large, geometric, moving behind 3i ATLAS. It wasn't shaped like a rock. It had edges, angles, and just as the image began to sharpen, the transmission cut off. What made it worse was what came next. When Psyche's systems finally reconnected, its sensors briefly recorded a strange spike, not in light, but in magnetic frequency. It matched no known pattern, no solar flare, no hajui mission. It was an artificial signal, and for a split second it was synchronized with Earth's magnetic field. That tiny detail would have been impossible to fake. It meant the signal wasn't random, it was aware of its receiver. It had targeted the connection. Inside NASA, panic started to creep in. Teams were divided. Some thought it was interference from the probe itself. Others believed something out there had reached back. The higher-ups shut the discussion down fast. The official line stayed firm. System error. But the analysts knew what they saw. Data that had structure, rhythm, and intent. Soon after, word came down from Washington. Psyche's data servers were to be transferred to federal oversight. That's usually code for classified. Once data enters that chain, it never comes out again. Publicly, the world moved on. The blackout became just another footnote in a long list of technical failures. But among scientists, the silence meant everything. They knew what data corruption really meant. Information too sensitive, too strange, or too unexplainable to risk going public. And so 3I Atlas remained a mystery. The object that Psyche had glimpsed for only a moment vanished into the black, continuing its steady, deliberate motion through space. But the real question wasn't what Psyche had seen. It was what had seen Psyche. Because if that transmission blackout wasn't an accident, if it was caused by whatever was traveling with 3I Atlas, then the silence wasn't a failure of technology. It was a response. And deep inside NASA, where the official reports ended, people started to ask a quiet, uneasy question. One no one dared write down: what if we were never meant to record what Psyche saw? It started quietly, not from NASA, not from any space agency, but from a backyard observatory in Arizona. An amateur radio astronomer named Daniel Price had been monitoring deep space static since his retirement. It was his hobby, his way of staying connected to the stars. Most nights, all he heard was the same faint hiss, the slow hum of cosmic background noise that's existed since the birth of the universe. But one night, just after the Psyche blackout, that hiss changed. It came as a faint tick. Then another, perfectly spaced. Each one exactly 47 minutes apart. Daniel thought it was interference from a local satellite or maybe a passing aircraft. But when he compared his recordings with other hobbyists across the US, he realized they were all hearing the same thing, the same exact pulse, repeating like clockwork. What caught everyone's attention wasn't just the timing, but the precision. Natural cosmic signals, like pulsars or quasars, always drift slightly. They stretch, fade, or shift frequency as they travel through space. This signal didn't. It was razor-sharp, locked in, as if being controlled by something that understood how to correct itself in real time. Within a week, observatories from Chile to South Africa confirmed it. The signal was real, a low-frequency radio pulse coming from the same region of space where 3I Atlas was moving. Scientists began calling it the 47 pulse. It was weak, nearly drowned by background radiation, but unmistakably structured. NASA stayed silent. Publicly, they ignored the chatter. But off the record, several deep space network operators confirmed they were receiving the same pattern, and that it matched a set of encrypted packets recovered from Psyche's final transmission. Each contained the number 47 repeated in binary code. To the public, it was just a coincidence. To the people who'd seen the missing data, it was something else, a continuation. For independent astronomers, this was a turning point. The blackout could be dismissed. The missing data could be hidden. But this signal was happening in real time. Anyone with the right equipment could pick it up. That made it impossible to bury dots soon. Small research teams started popping up around the world, connected only through encrypted chat rooms and private forums. They called themselves the 47 Network. Each group tracked the signal, comparing timing and amplitude. Some claimed to detect faint harmonics, smaller pulses riding beneath the main one, like whispers beneath a heartbeat. When those harmonics were translated into sound frequencies, they formed a repeating tone, almost musical, eerily human. At first, everyone assumed it was random. But then, a graduate student from MIT ran a spectral analysis on the signal's rhythm. What she found made her stop breathing. The pattern wasn't noise. It matched the Fibonacci sequence, the mathematical pattern that appears in everything from seashells to spiral galaxies. Nature's favorite number. Suddenly, this wasn't just static. It was communication. The discovery exploded online. Forums lit up with speculation. Was it an alien code? A reflection from Psyche? A secret military project? Every theory had followers. Every skeptic had a counter-argument. But one fact remained. The pulses were real, measurable, and increasing in strength. By early December 2025, the 47 pulse was no longer faint background noise. It had evolved. Now, each pulse carried micro-variations in frequency, tiny, deliberate shifts that formed clusters. Those clusters looked eerily similar to digital data packets, like ones used in computer communications. In other words, whoever or whatever was sending it was transmitting information. And that's when something even stranger happened. A week before Christmas, the pulse changed rhythm. Instead of 47 minutes, it shortened to 40-6-point-9. Then 46. Then 46. The signal was accelerating, adjusting as 3i. Atlas moved closer to Jupiter. It was tracking its own motion, syncing perfectly with its changing distance from Earth. That's not something natural objects do. That's something guided objects do. NASA couldn't ignore it anymore. They issued a short statement acknowledging an anomalous periodic transmission, calling it a reflection artifact from Jupiter's magnetic field. But the explanation didn't hold up. The pulse's origin wasn't near Jupiter yet. It was still between Mars and the asteroid belt. That's when independent data analyst Dr. Lena Roth uploaded her findings to a mirror site. Her analysis showed that the pulses weren't reflections at all. They were directional, aimed straight toward Earth. The precision was impossible to mistake. Whoever or whatever was behind 3i Atlas was aware of us soon. Global radio telescopes began coordinating to triangulate the source. The Allen Telescope Array in California, Arecibo's successor array in Puerto Rico, and even Australia's Parkes Observatory all joined in. The signal came from a moving point in space, not random, not scattered, a single consistent target following 3i Atlas. The strangest detail came from a lab in Finland. They noticed that the signal wasn't just traveling through normal radio channels. It was slightly bending magnetic resonance lines in the upper atmosphere, as if it wasn't just being heard, but felt. It resonated with the Earth's own magnetic field. Some nights, compass needles twitched at the exact moment the pulse hit. That shouldn't be possible. The media began to catch on. News outlets ran cautious headlines. Deep space mystery signal detected linked to interstellar object. Talk shows laughed it off, comparing it to War of the Worlds, but in scientific circles, no one was laughing. The precision, the timing, the mathematical order, it all pointed to intention. Then, almost like an answer, the pulse stopped. For 3 full days, there was silence. Every observatory, every telescope, every receiver, nothing. The cosmos went back to its usual background hum. People assumed it was over, just another anomaly fading away. Then, on the 4th night, the signal returned. But this time, it wasn't a pulse. It was a tone, continuous, rising and falling in gentle waves. And hidden deep within that tone, researchers found a new pattern. When they converted it into visual form, it revealed a shape, circular, symmetrical, made of concentric rings. When mapped against the solar system, those rings matched the orbital paths of the planets. Every one of them, and right in the center. Was Jupiter too many? It looked like a coincidence. But to those who'd been tracking 3i Atlas since the beginning, it felt like a message, one that said, we're heading there. After that, the world's major space agencies went quiet again. Radio silence. The official explanations stopped. Access to real-time telescope data was restricted. The independent observatories that reported new findings suddenly went offline or under review. But the amateur community kept listening, and they noticed one last thing after each pulse cycle. A faint secondary echo appeared. Quieter, delayed by exactly 1.6 seconds. That's the time it takes light to travel from Earth to the Moon and back. It wasn't coming from deep space anymore. It was bouncing back as if something was listening to us and replying. And that's when scientists stopped calling it a signal. They started calling it a conversation. By the start of 2025, something began to change. At first it was subtle. A fraction of a degree here, a minor correction there. But for those tracking 3i Atlas, the numbers didn't lie. The object was no longer following its predicted course. Every few weeks, astronomers noticed small deviations in its path. Movements too precise to be random. Normally, comets drift under the pull of gravity alone, following predictable arcs shaped by the sun's force and planetary influence. But 3i Atlas wasn't drifting. It was adjusting. Every tiny shift seemed to counteract Jupiter's tug or correct solar pressure from the sun's wind. To the untrained eye, it looked like noise in the data. To those who knew better, it looked deliberate. For months, teams at observatories across the world ran their calculations again and again. Could it be an error in measurements? A sensor drift? Instrument interference from Jupiter's strong magnetic field? But the more they checked, the clearer it became. This was no technical glitch. Something about 3i Atlas's movement suggested guidance. In February 2025, a team from the European Space Agency released an internal report calling it a self-correcting trajectory. It wasn't made public, but within days, a leaked page appeared online. A graph showing a series of micro-adjustments plotted over time. Each correction aligned perfectly with the object's relative position to Jupiter, as if it were charting its own path toward the planet. And then came the twist that shook even the most skeptical minds. Every single adjustment, 3-1 ATLA is made. Every tiny correction in its motion matched the timing of the mysterious signal pulses detected months earlier. The 47-minute rhythm wasn't just a transmission pattern. It was a flight clock. The realization hit like a shockwave. The pulses weren't random communications or echoes. They were navigation signals, or at least they behaved like them. With every pulse, 3I Atlas shifted slightly, aligning itself with a trajectory that would take it directly toward Jupiter's upper atmosphere. It was like watching a spacecraft make mid-course corrections. But there was no propulsion plume, no visible thrusters, no outgassing trails that natural comets usually leave when they heat up. It moved cleanly, silently, as if guided by invisible hands, by spring. Observatories began documenting the anomaly officially. Astronomers who had once dismissed the talk of control began to take notice. Some proposed exotic natural explanations: magnetic acceleration from charged dust, quantum spin interactions, or gravitational resonance with Jupiter's moons. But none of it fit. The movements were too regular, too refined. Then, in April, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory quietly updated 3IATLAS's orbit path on its public database. The line, once a simple curve skimming the outer solar system, now bent sharply toward Jupiter. There was no announcement, no press release, just a silent update, one that eagle-eyed astronomers noticed immediately. The internet lit up with speculation. Theories ranged from secret missions to alien probes, but the deeper you looked, the stranger it got. Satellite imagery from the Hubble telescope showed faint, optical distortions surrounding the object, as if light was bending unevenly around it. Some researchers suggested this could be caused by a halo of ionized particles, maybe charged gas or dust. Others noticed a more unsettling detail. The pattern of the distortion resembled electromagnetic field lines, symmetrical and shifting with time. It looked like a magnetic bubble, or a shield. By May, 3I Atlas was supposed to have accelerated due to the sun's gravity, gaining speed as it approached the inner system. Instead, it slowed. Not drastically, but enough that it couldn't be explained by normal physics. It was as though something was resisting the sun's pull, countering it intentionally. At first, people thought maybe it was shedding mass, venting gas like comets do when they warm up. But infrared readings told a different story. Its thermal output didn't match any known cometary activity. There was no outgassing, no sublimation, no debris. It stayed cool, far too cool for a body that close to the sun's light. That's not how ice behaves. That's how metal behaves. And then came the whisper from inside NASA. An anonymous data technician, known online only as Salsi-9, posted a single message on a private astronomy forum. The message read, "The object isn't losing speed. It's controlling it." Attached was a graph of motion data, showing pulse-like changes in velocity, tiny bursts, perfectly timed, always in sync with the original signal pattern. If that was true, it meant propulsion, not by burning fuel or ejecting mass, but by manipulating space around it. Theories emerged that it could be using magnetic or gravitational propulsion, technology far beyond anything humans had achieved. As summer 2025 unfolded, more changes became impossible to ignore. The reflection patterns from 3I Atlas's surface began to shift. Early images showed a dull, irregular glow, typical of rocky objects. But new data revealed a smoother, more uniform reflectivity, almost mirror-like. Some nights it reflected sunlight so evenly that automated telescopes briefly mistook it for an artificial satellite. Scientists began dividing into camps. One side insisted this was still a natural event, maybe a rare metallic asteroid reacting oddly to solar radiation. The other side, smaller but growing louder, argued that nature doesn't do this. Objects don't navigate, They don't synchronize with signals. They don't steer toward Jupiter. And yet, that's exactly what 3I Atlas was doing. By August, its heading was clear. It wasn't passing through the solar system. It was entering it with purpose. The orbit projections began to converge on a single outcome: a close encounter with Jupiter's magnetosphere in March 2026. Astronomers double-checked their models, hoping for error. There was none. Every simulation pointed to the same point of convergence, a near miss so precise it could only be intentional. Inside NASA and ESA, meetings turned private. Data feeds were throttled. Public tracking became limited to approved sources. And yet, a handful of independent astronomers kept gathering new data, sharing results in encrypted groups. They reported a disturbing new trend as 3I Atlas approached. The strange rhythmic pulses were becoming stronger, clearer, more structured. It was as if the object was preparing. By the end of the year, something extraordinary happened. For the first time, telescopes captured a faint blue haze trailing behind 3I Atlas, not like a comet's tail, but like ionized plasma. The color was distinctive, almost electric, flickering faintly in ultraviolet. It wasn't being blown away by solar wind. It was forming against it, like a wake left by something pushing through space instead of drifting through it. Astronomers stared at the data in disbelief. Whatever this was, it wasn't behaving like any known object from nature. And as more readings came in, a single, chilling realization began to take hold. 3I Atlas wasn't being pulled by gravity anymore. It was choosing its path. By late 2025, there was no more room for doubt. The numbers, the angles, the shifts, everything lined up. 3I Atlas was not passing through our solar system. It was turning inside it. Slowly, steadily, deliberately. It was locking onto a destination at first. Scientists thought it might be Earth. The angle seemed to suggest a shallow approach toward our orbit. That idea alone sparked a storm of media panic before the data even stabilized. But within weeks, the trajectory updated again, this time pointing far beyond us, toward the giant that rules the outer planets, Jupiter. The moment that realization hit, the tone in every observatory changed. Jupiter is not just another planet. It's the solar system's engine, a massive sphere of storms and magnetism, 1,000 times larger than Earth, powerful enough to bend space around it. For billions of years, it's been our cosmic shield, capturing asteroids and comets before they can hit us. Anything that gets too close is either swallowed whole or flung back into the void. So why would something choose to go there? For decades, astronomers have studied how Jupiter's immense gravity shapes the solar system. It's like a living gatekeeper, absorbing debris, guiding planets, even protecting Earth from deadly impacts. Its magnetosphere, the invisible field of charged energy that surrounds it, is enormous. If we could see it with the naked eye, it would stretch farther than the sun itself appears in our sky. Any normal object venturing close would be stripped apart by radiation, torn to dust by magnetic tides. Yet 3I Atlas was aiming straight for it, with precision so exact it didn't make sense for a natural body. Around November 2025, NASA's updated orbital models showed a predicted closest approach of just 1.8 million miles from Jupiter's cloud tops, barely brushing the planet's outer magnetosphere. To most people, that sounds like a huge distance. But in cosmic terms, that's closer than safety allows. For comparison, Jupiter's magnetosphere is so intense it can fry a spacecraft's electronics long before it even sees the planet. So the question grew louder. Was this a death dive? Or a rendezvous? The strangest part came from light-curve data, the way sunlight reflected off 3I Atlas's surface over time. Normally, when comets swing near Jupiter, their trajectories bend sharply due to gravitational slingshot effects. But not this one. The curve remained smooth, controlled. It wasn't just falling toward Jupiter, it was approaching, like a pilot easing into orbit. That's when scientists began to realize something far deeper might be at play. Jupiter's immense magnetic field isn't just destructive. It's a power source, a cosmic battery radiating more energy than any other planet in the solar system. If an intelligent civilization wanted to harvest energy, recharge a vessel, or use a natural field to mask its presence, Jupiter would be the perfect choice, and that's what scared everyone in early December. Leaked documents from a European observatory mentioned a phrase that would later circle the internet like wildfire: electromagnetic intent. The report, marked confidential, suggested that 3I Atlas's approach showed evidence of adaptive maneuvering, subtle course changes that mirrored shifts in Jupiter's magnetosphere. In other words, it was reacting to the planet before even reaching it. The public never saw that report officially, but an astronomer who worked on it posted a single cryptic message before her account disappeared. It's not avoiding danger, it's seeking it. That line spread across social media faster than any official statement ever could. Overnight, the story went from scientific curiosity to global fascination. Podcasts, late-night shows, documentaries. Everyone wanted to know what 3I Atlas was doing. Theories ranged from ancient alien probes to self-replicating machines designed to seed worlds. A few even claimed it was a warning or a message we hadn't learned how to read yet. Inside NASA, things grew quiet. Too quiet. Public updates became shorter, more generic. Mentions of 3I Atlas vanished from weekly press briefings. When asked, spokespeople deflected, saying the object's data was still being reviewed. But independent astronomers noticed that the Deep Space Network, the communication array that tracks distant probes, had started making unusual calibrations. It was as if they were preparing for a listening event. Meanwhile, 3I Atlas kept moving, calm, precise, unstoppable. The light from its surface now pulsed faintly, with small rhythmic flickers captured by telescopes in Chile and Hawaii. The intervals weren't random. They matched the same 47-minute cycle first detected a year earlier. It was as if the object was syncing itself to a cosmic heartbeat, one that now seemed tied directly to Jupiter. By Christmas 2025, simulations from the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics confirmed what everyone feared. If 3I Atlas continued on this path, it would pass through the densest part of Jupiter's magnetic field on March 16, 2026. That date became a whisper in scientific circles, then a headline across the world. TV anchors called it the Jupiter encounter. Reddit threads called it the date of contact. Every culture, every news outlet, every science forum latched onto the countdown. Some believed it would be nothing, a harmless cosmic event, another passing comet. Others said it was the final step in something we weren't meant to understand. But inside observatories, the atmosphere turned uneasy. Equipment started picking up interference. Magnetometers, devices that measure subtle changes in magnetic fields, began showing slight repeating disturbances every time 3I Atlas came into view. The pattern mirrored Earth's Schumann resonance, the natural electromagnetic hum of our planet's atmosphere. It was as if Jupiter's field and the object's field were already talking, across hundreds of millions of miles. Then, in mid-January 2026, something truly unexpected happened. For the first time, 3I Atlas emitted a short burst of light, a pure single flash that lasted less than 2 seconds. Every telescope pointed at the object recorded it, but the source didn't match any natural process. It wasn't sunlight reflecting off its surface. It was energy coming from within. After that, the object's behavior grew even stranger. Its light pulses began aligning not only with its own movement, but with Jupiter's rotation, as though it were locking into sync with the planet's magnetic poles. Every 9 hours and 56 minutes, Jupiter's rotation period, the pulses repeated with microscopic precision. That kind of synchronization doesn't happen by chance. It was no longer just a mysterious visitor. It was behaving like something with intent. Governments began coordinating secretly. Multiple deep space satellites shifted their observation schedules to prioritize Jupiter. Some insiders hinted at classified missions being redirected toward the region. But by then, everyone watching knew it was too late to intervene. Whatever 3I Atlas was, or whoever sent it, it was already committed to its path. In those final weeks leading into February, something subtle yet haunting happened in the data. The object's brightness began to increase, slowly, predictably, like the warming glow of an engine preparing to ignite. It wasn't flaring like a comet. It was powering up, for the first time. Astronomers started using a new phrase to describe it: active phase. Whatever was guiding 3I Atlas wasn't just aiming for Jupiter, it was preparing for contact. And as one astronomer quietly wrote in a private note later leaked online, "If this is intelligence, it just announced itself." By February 2026, the pull of Jupiter had become impossible to ignore, not just for 3I Atlas, but for everyone watching from Earth, the largest planet in our solar system. A swirling ocean of gas and storm was now the stage for the most mysterious encounter in modern history. From every major observatory, Mauna Kea in Hawaii, Alma in Chile, the VLT in the Atacama Desert, telescopes turned toward one point in the sky. They were all tracking that faint moving dot, 3I as it drifted closer to Jupiter's gravity well. It wasn't rushing. It wasn't spiraling out of control. It was gliding almost gracefully into the planet's invisible magnetic arms. To understand how strange that was, you have to know how Jupiter's pull works. It's not like gravity on Earth. Jupiter's mass is so enormous it can twist space itself. Any comet or asteroid that comes within its reach usually gets one of two fates: destruction or capture. Some are torn apart before they even get close. Others become permanent satellites, frozen in endless orbits. But none move like 3I Atlas did. It was steady, balanced, like it knew exactly where it was going. Scientists expected chaos, violent rotation, sudden jets of gas, gravitational stretching. Instead, they saw calm motion. The object barely flickered or changed speed. Even the dust trail, which most comets leave behind, was faint, too faint for its size and distance. Something was holding it together against Jupiter's crushing pull at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Analysts stared at simulation models that made no sense. It's behaving as if it's under thrust. One of them said, meaning it was correcting itself, resisting the natural gravitational drift. But if that was true, it meant 3I. Atlas wasn't a drifting rock. It was controlling its own path. Every new frame of data deepened the mystery. Jupiter's immense magnetic field, stretching millions of miles into space, began to interact with the object. When charged particles from Jupiter hit 3I ATLAS, instead of scattering like normal, they seemed to curve, to bend around it. Some researchers compared it to watching a rock repel water in a stream. There was a field there, invisible but powerful, pushing back. By the first week of February, instruments started to detect electromagnetic echoes, faint waves bouncing back from the object, resonating with the same frequencies emitted by Jupiter's radiation belts. It was almost as if 3I Atlas was listening, tuning itself to the planet's natural rhythm. Around this time, an unusual silence settled across public agencies. The European Space Agency, NASA, and even China's CNSA stopped releasing live updates. Their tracking dashboards went offline for maintenance, but amateur astronomers filled the gap. Dozens of backyard telescopes across Arizona, Texas, and Southern California picked up visual evidence, the object's brightness fluctuating every few hours. As if breathing, social media lit up with theories again. Some said it was absorbing energy. Others believed it was powering down before entering Jupiter's magnetosphere. But one quiet theory, circulating among astrophysicists in encrypted forums, felt different. They called it the resonance hypothesis. It suggested that 3I Atlas wasn't simply falling toward Jupiter. It was communicating, synchronizing with the planet's electromagnetic field in preparation for something. What that something might be, no one could agree on. Inside the Goddard Space Flight Center, deep space listening stations began detecting strange low-frequency signals, vibrations that repeated every few hours. These signals were faint, almost buried in background noise. But when filtered, their origin lined up perfectly with the region around 3I Atlas. The signal wasn't random, static. It was structured. Some called it a hum, others a call. It wasn't the kind of sound space makes. Space is silent. But electromagnetic energy can carry patterns, rhythms, and pulses. And these pulses carried something uncanny, a repeating sequence that resembled a simple mathematical ratio. Over and over again, it broadcasted a signal consistent with harmonic resonance. Like music. Only cosmic. Meanwhile, Jupiter's own storms began to shift. The Great Red Spot, a hurricane larger than Earth that's been raging for centuries, started to dim slightly, then flare brighter than before. Satellites watching from orbit caught strange flashes of ultraviolet light just above the cloud tops. The pattern matched the timing of 3IATLAS's pulses. It was as though the planet was answering. Reporters caught wind of the phenomenon and began calling it the conversation. No one in authority confirmed it, but the public had already made up its mind. They believed Jupiter and 3IATLAS were connected, exchanging energy, maybe even information. The idea seemed crazy, yet the data supported it. In late February, the Hubble Space Telescope focused directly on 3I Atlas for 14 straight hours. What it recorded left astronomers speechless. The object wasn't tumbling randomly like a comet. Its rotation was slow, deliberate, and, according to one NASA insider, mechanically stable. That Phrase appeared once in an internal memo before it was deleted from the public database the next day. Even the outer surface of 3I Atlas seemed to change. Earlier observations showed a dull, icy exterior, but under Jupiter's magnetic glow, parts of it began to shimmer, faintly metallic, almost reflective. Some scientists thought it was gas crystallization caused by radiation. Others whispered it was something else, some kind of material we'd never seen before, responding to energy rather than light. By February 20th, the object had reached the edge of Jupiter's magnetosphere, the invisible boundary where charged particles race like wind through space. Any ordinary comet would start breaking apart here, its tail whipped into chaos. Instead, 3I Atlas remained solid. The field around it flared brighter, forming a faint blue aura, visible even through optical filters. That image, a glowing object, against Jupiter's stormy background, became one of the most shared pictures in human history. It spread across every news site, every phone screen, every late-night show. It didn't matter if you were a believer or a skeptic. It looked like something out of a dream. Then, the first real anomaly hit. NASA's Juno spacecraft, orbiting Jupiter since 2016, suddenly lost partial communication. Not total blackout, but interference, like a radio being jammed. Engineers tried resetting channels, switching antennas, recalibrating frequencies. Nothing worked. The noise pattern, when analyzed, matched the same harmonic sequence coming from 3I Atlas dot for the first time. The word contagion appeared in mission logs. Not biological, electromagnetic. A ripple effect spreading through systems, distorting signals as if the object was testing the planet's entire communication network. At that point, even skeptics began to worry. Something was happening, something unprecedented. Jupiter's pull was no longer just physical. It had become magnetic, electric, and strangely psychological. People on Earth reported sleepless nights, feeling drawn to sky maps, watching live feeds as if expecting a message. It was as if the planet itself had become a symbol, a connection point between us and something waiting beyond the stars. And through it all, 3I Atlas kept drifting closer, calm, bright, unwavering. Every hour, the hum deepened. Every day, Jupiter's atmosphere responded a little more. The energy between them was growing, invisible yet undeniable. Like a storm building far out at sea, no one could say what would happen when they finally met. But one thing was clear. The laws of motion and chance no longer seemed enough to explain it. Something about Jupiter's pull felt alive. As 3I Atlas drifted deeper into Jupiter's reach, something began to happen that no one had ever seen before. The calm blue glow surrounding the object thickened, twisting and pulsing as if alive. Jupiter's vast magnetic field, an invisible ocean of charged energy, was reacting, bending and reshaping itself around this single intruder. For scientists, this moment was everything. Instruments all over the world lit up with wild data spikes. Magnetic readings doubled, then tripled. Radio frequencies went off the charts. Every few minutes, Jupiter's auroras, those enormous glowing ribbons at its poles, flared brighter than ever before, lighting up space like a giant heartbeat. The energy exchange between the planet and 3I Atlas wasn't random. It was rhythmic, almost choreographed in the control rooms at NASA, and ESA teams worked through sleepless nights. They'd expected turbulence, maybe even fragments breaking off. But what they saw was coordination, a magnetic conversation between two titans, one made of storms, the other wrapped in silence. The Juno spacecraft, still orbiting Jupiter but now half-blind from interference, captured partial images that shocked even the most seasoned engineers. In one frame, lightning streaks danced across the planet's upper clouds, synchronized with faint flashes from the object itself. The timing was too perfect to ignore. It wasn't just reflection, it was response. As this happened, Earth's instruments began to feel the ripple. Magnetometers from Greenland to Argentina recorded faint, steady vibrations matching Jupiter's pulse. Even the Schumann resonance, Earth's natural electromagnetic heartbeat, wavered slightly. It was as if the entire solar system was listening to a dialogue we couldn't understand. No one could explain how 3IATLAS resisted such power. Jupiter's magnetic field is so intense, it can fry spacecraft, electronics, and trap radiation for decades. Yet the object moved through it effortlessly, leaving behind trails of glowing particles that twisted like auroras in space. They formed patterns, spirals, arcs, symmetrical loops. Mathematicians, studying the footage, noticed that the shapes weren't random. They matched fractal sequences, repeating ratios seen in nature, in seashells, hurricanes, and even DNA. That discovery sparked a new wave of theories. Was 3IATLAS mimicking natural life? Or was it built by something that understood the very code of creation itself? At the University of Michigan, a small group of astrophysicists began running magnetohydrodynamic models, simulations that tried to recreate what was happening. But their systems kept crashing. Not from errors, but from overload. The energy levels required to produce what 3I Atlas was doing were beyond any known material. Something inside it was generating or channeling power. Meanwhile, inside Jupiter's storms, things were changing. The great red spot's outer bands started to thin, revealing glimpses of deeper clouds never seen before. Radio spectrographs picked up strange modulations, signals echoing back from inside the storm. Some believed the object was sending energy down into the planet's atmosphere. Others thought Jupiter itself was transmitting something outward, a signal that only 3I Atlas could understand. Then came the event that no one could deny. On February 28th, every major observatory recorded a sudden flash, a beam of ultraviolet light connecting Jupiter's magnetosphere to 3I Atlas like a living tether. It lasted for only 6 seconds, but those 6 seconds changed everything. The beam wasn't chaotic like lightning. It was narrow, precise, and perfectly vertical, a clean energy bridge between the planet and the object. During that moment, every magnetometer on Earth spiked simultaneously. Even smartphone compasses. The entire planet had felt it. NASA called it a magnetic reconnection event. But the term didn't satisfy anyone who had seen the footage. It looked too deliberate, too controlled. It was as if something had activated after the event. The glow around 3I ATLAS changed color from deep blue to a strange mix of violet and silver. Spectral analysis showed elements that shouldn't exist, wavelengths that didn't match any known mineral or gas. It was almost like the object was adapting, transforming in response to Jupiter's energy dot. Then, unexpectedly, the object slowed down. Not by much, just enough for scientists to notice. For the first time since entering the solar system, 3IATLAS's speed dropped by measurable degrees. In space, that doesn't happen unless a force acts against motion. Yet there were no visible jets, no debris trails, nothing to suggest resistance. It was as though Jupiter's magnetism had locked it in place. Reporters started calling it the magnetic crossfire. To the public, it looked like two cosmic forces testing each other, one ancient and natural, the other mysterious and deliberate. Conspiracy theories exploded online. Some claimed it was alien technology charging itself with planetary power. Others said it was a message, a sign that something was about to awaken. Meanwhile, scientists began losing their grip on control. Every attempt to scan 3 IATL-AS more closely resulted in interference. Radio signals bounced back, scrambled. High-frequency imaging came back, distorted. It was as if the object was cloaked in an electromagnetic shell, blocking anything from peering inside. Even time measurements began to act strange. Deep space tracking stations reported microsecond delays between transmissions, slight, almost imperceptible, but real. When mapped out, those delays formed a repeating pattern. It was binary, a sequence of ones and zeros. Some believed it was noise. Others weren't so sure. Inside a dim control room in Pasadena, a NASA systems engineer whispered the thought that would echo through the halls for days. What if it's answering us? That line leaked in an internal memo before it was quickly deleted. But once it reached the internet, the world couldn't stop talking about it. Was the object aware of our observation? Was it adjusting because we were watching? As March approached, the connection between 3I, ATL, AS, and Jupiter only intensified. Radiation levels around the planet's poles surged, creating auroras that stretched thousands of miles above the atmosphere. The colors were no longer green and blue. They shimmered, red, gold, even pure white. Spacecraft sensors failed to categorize them. The magnetic field had become a storm, a swirling crossfire of energy and radiation, pulling and pushing in perfect rhythm. And at the center of it all, 3IATLAS hovered silently, reflecting Jupiter's light like an eye staring back across the void. Observers began to notice faint ripples in the space surrounding it, distortions that bent starlight, bending the background sky ever so slightly. Some said it looked like a lens. Others said it looked like a portal. Whatever it was preparing for something. And while the world watched Jupiter's fury grow brighter with each passing hour, one truth began to settle in. 3I Atlas wasn't just surviving the storm, it was feeding on it. March 16th, 2026. It's the date burned into every astronomer's calendar, the day when 3I Atlas will reach its closest point to Jupiter. But by the time that day begins, the entire world is already watching. News stations across the globe broadcast live feeds of Jupiter's stormy face. The planet looks different now, brighter, angrier, alive. Massive spirals of color twist across its surface, and deep in those storms, flashes of light come and go like breathing. The great red spot, once calm and predictable, now pulses with strange rhythms, as if answering an unseen signal. Every hour, new data pours in, magnetometers showing energy levels beyond anything ever recorded, and radio telescopes detecting rhythmic pulses that repeat exactly every 61 seconds. The same pulse has been detected in Alaska, Chile, and even on the dark side of the moon through robotic sensors. It's synchronized, deliberate, and constant. Governments try to calm the public, calling it a natural cosmic interaction. But most people don't believe that anymore. Too many coincidences, too many patterns. Even the most skeptical voices in science have stopped calling 3I ATLAS a comet. They've started calling it something else: the visitor in Houston. A special NASA task group is stationed at the Johnson Space Center. Their monitors track 3 IATLAS's trajectory second by second. The object is now less than 1.3 million miles from Jupiter's surface, dangerously close. Its surface temperature has spiked, but not from sunlight. It's glowing from within, pulsing like a heart under a metal skin. At 3:14 a.m. UTC, it happens. 3-1 ATLAS begins to slow, not naturally, but intentionally. The curve of its path changes. Instead of diving straight toward Jupiter, it shifts into a perfect arc, like it's orbiting something invisible. Scientists scramble to explain how it's defying gravitational physics. There's no thruster, no outgassing, no sign of propulsion. Yet it's maneuvering like a spacecraft under control. Inside mission control, tension is unbearable. Engineers whisper in disbelief as real-time data shows minute-exact course corrections, no errors, no drift. Every motion looks calculated. It's as if the object knows exactly what it's doing and where it's meant to go. The first theory: maybe it's caught in Jupiter's Lagrange point, a delicate balance zone between the planet's gravity and the sun's pull. But those zones aren't stable this close to the gas giant. The math doesn't add up. Something else is holding it there. By morning, a worldwide signal blackout occurs. Deep space networks go silent for 6 full minutes. Every telescope and probe looking toward Jupiter loses its connection at the same moment. Even the Juno probe, orbiting the planet, transmits only a single, corrupted packet before the link dies. That packet contains 1 frame of image data, and when it's enhanced, something appears, a faint geometric shape between 3I, Atlas, and Jupiter. It's not a shadow, not debris, not a camera glitch. It looks structured. Some see symmetry. Others see a doorway. When the signal returns, the object is gone for 47 seconds. Radar shows nothing but empty space. Then it reappears, a few hundred miles closer to Jupiter's pole. The sudden displacement can't be explained by orbital drift. It's instantaneous. A jump by now. Social media is overflowing with theories. It teleported, it phased, it crossed dimensions. Scientists, desperate to stay rational, describe it as a data error, but their voices don't sound convinced. As the day progresses, the whole solar system seems to hold its breath. Jupiter's auroras grow so bright that amateur astronomers can see them from Earth with small telescopes. Electric green and deep violet bands wrap around the planet's poles, shimmering in rhythm with 3IATLAS's pulse. The most haunting moment comes when the pulse changes. Pitch for the first time. Instead of a steady beat, it starts modulating, almost like a voice, or a signal being transmitted through energy instead of sound. When translated into audible range, it sounds like a low, slow hum, rising and falling with uncanny precision. In laboratories across the US and Europe, scientists convert the waveform into digital data. What they find sends shivers down their spines. It's not random noise. The hum carries repeating numerical structures, prime numbers, then ratios, matching the golden sequence. The same mathematical language found in organic growth, from seashells to galaxies. At this point, panic starts to whisper beneath the surface of calm scientific language. Someone or something is communicating. Meanwhile, on the far side of Jupiter, Cameras capture a faint disturbance in the planet's upper atmosphere, a swirl forming where no storm should be. It begins as a small spiral, then widens into a perfect ring, thousands of miles across. Lightning flickers around its rim like the edges of a massive engine. 3I ATLAS drifts closer. The glow surrounding it grows more intense, almost transparent, revealing inner structures that flicker with patterns like circuitry. For the first time, observers realize it may not be a solid body at all. It's layered shells within shells, rotating at different speeds. By 7 p.m. UTC, the object aligns directly above Jupiter's north pole. The planet's auroras pulse violently, matching every beat. Instruments on Earth start picking up a secondary echo, a mirrored pulse returning from the other side of the planet, as though the energy is bouncing off something hidden beneath the clouds, somewhere deep inside that endless storm. Something answers back. At this point, NASA locks down public data feeds. The last live stream from the Jupiter Observation Network cuts out mid-broadcast, freezing on a frame of the planet glowing white-hot around its pole. No official statement is made, but leaked transmissions later reveal that the magnetic field strength at the pole spiked to an impossible level, strong enough to distort time measurements aboard orbiting satellites. The very flow of seconds began to warp. Jupiter's upper atmosphere begins to twist into a funnel, a spiraling column of glowing plasma, pointing directly at 3I ATLAS. The object, once silent and cold, now burns like a second sun, its light pulsing faster and faster. Every spectrum analyzer on Earth reaches its limit. Then, at precisely 11:11 p.m. UTC, everything stops. The light, the pulses, even the storm. Jupiter's spinning clouds freeze in place, an image so surreal that astronomers question their own eyes. The solar system falls into a brief, absolute stillness, and in that silence, a single, narrow burst of energy erupts from 3I ATLAS toward Jupiter's heart, so fast that even light itself seems to hesitate. No one knows what it was. No one knows what it carried. But as instruments recover, one thing becomes clear. Jupiter has changed. For the first time, scientists begin to consider a possibility they had been whispering about in private for months. What if 3I Atlas isn't a comet at all? What if it's hollow, a vessel, a probe, or something constructed, rather than a naturally occurring rock? The evidence is subtle but impossible to ignore. Its surface reflects light in strange ways, glimmering like polished metal in some spots and absorbing almost all light in others. Even radar scans show echoes that shouldn't be possible from a solid body of its size. Instead of bouncing back uniformly, signals scatter unpredictably, as if bouncing off internal structures, back in laboratories across the United States. Astrophysicists begin modeling what such an object might be. Every simulation starts with one question. Could this be artificial? Could something intelligent have sent it here, aiming for Jupiter with precise calculations, spanning light? The thought chills even the most rational minds at the same time. Amateur astronomers in remote corners of the world continue to monitor faint pulses emanating from 3I ATLAS. They've been tracking these for weeks. But only now do the patterns become clearer. There's repetition, but also variation, like Morse code, but far more complex. Some of the pulses even seem to anticipate Jupiter's magnetic storms, altering timing to synchronize perfectly with the planet's auroras. If this is artificial, the implications are staggering, not just for science, but for humanity's understanding of life itself. Could an intelligence so advanced manipulate an entire gas giant from light years away? And more urgently, what is it sending to Jupiter? Or perhaps, what is it retrieving? Theories begin to divide the scientific community. A portion insists it's a natural, though incredibly unusual, phenomenon, an icy body with unique magnetic properties interacting with Jupiter's magnetosphere. Others believe it's a probe, possibly sent by a civilization far older and more advanced than ours, carrying instructions, data, or even life itself. Some dare to wonder if it's not only intelligent, but aware, conscious in ways humanity cannot yet comprehend. Could it perceive Earth and its inhabitants? Could it be learning from every observation, adjusting its trajectory in response to our telescopes, our satellites, our signals? Meanwhile, NASA's private simulations continue in secret. The moment 3I, Atlas crossed a critical boundary near Jupiter, instruments recorded energy readings that were off the charts. Magnetic fields twisted unnaturally, particle collisions accelerated inexplicably, and radiation spikes reached levels comparable to a small star. Yet, somehow, the object endured unaffected, maneuvering as if it expected the turbulence. In offices, laboratories, and observatories, the question becomes impossible to ignore. Is the object alive in a way we cannot define? If it's a probe, is it scouting, studying, or preparing for something we cannot yet see? Every calculation and every pulse brings more questions than answers. Amateur observers share their footage online, showing 3IATL AS glimmering and pulsing like a heartbeat as it hovers over Jupiter's swirling storms. Scientists debate whether it's a reflection of plasma interaction or a signal encoded in light itself. Some even suggest it's sending a message, a pattern meant to be observed, interpreted, and understood. The more data comes in, the more surreal it becomes. For decades, humanity has sent probes to the edges of the solar system, daring to explore and collect knowledge. Now, the roles feel reversed. For the first time, it seems as though something from outside is exploring us, analyzing our star, our planet, and the very instruments we've built to track it. Jupiter continues to react. Its auroras pulse in rhythm with the object's internal signals, and new, mysterious lightning arcs erupt across its upper atmosphere. The planet seems almost alive, responding to 3IATL AS's presence. Some scientists speculate it's a form of interaction, the gas giant acting as a conduit or amplifier for whatever lies inside the object. And yet, despite all the speculation, no one can say for sure. Every theory has gaps. Every model falls short. All that remains are observations, patterns, and a slowly rising tension in the global scientific community. The question now isn't just what 3I Atlas is, it's what it intends. And with March 16th, 2026 approaching, every passing hour brings the solar system closer to a revelation that could redefine humanity's place in the universe. Asterisk as the world watches. 3-1 ATLA as begins to reveal more of its strange nature. Leaked NASA data, quietly circulating among trusted scientists, shows something astonishing. When sunlight hits the object at certain angles, it doesn't just reflect normally, it bends, twists, and scatters in ways that defy natural physics. In some frames, the light appears almost like a gravitational lens, warping the space around it. Images taken from multiple observatories reveal flashes that synchronize with Jupiter's magnetic pulses. creating patterns that seem deliberate. It's as if the object is sending a signal, not just glowing passively, but communicating through light itself. These observations send a ripple of unease through the astrophysics community. For decades, humans have studied comets, asteroids, and meteoroids, expecting randomness in motion and reflection. But here, there is order, deliberate, precise, and almost intelligent. Every flicker, every flash seems designed to be observed, to be interpreted. Amateur astronomers, to start posting footage online. One observer in Arizona notices repeating light sequences that resemble a code, patterns too structured to be natural. Another in New Mexico captures frames where the light bends around the object as if flowing through an unseen structure inside. Across the globe, excitement mixes with apprehension. Could it be a message or a trap? At NASA, teams scramble to decode the reflections. Software that normally tracks asteroid brightness is repurposed to analyze light sequences for patterns. Early results are baffling. Certain sequences correspond to mathematical constants, repeating ratios that appear across the universe, from atomic structures to planetary orbits. The implication is chilling. The object seems to know the fundamentals of the cosmos. Meanwhile, 3180LAS's trajectory continues to shift subtly. With each reflection and pulse, it appears to adjust to Jupiter's magnetic field, aligning its path in ways that suggest intention. Scientists begin modeling the possible energy interactions if the object enters the planet's field. Every simulation shows one thing clearly. This isn't just physics at work. This is something calculating, something that seems aware of the environment around it. Speculation grows. Could 3I Atlas be a probe sent intentionally to interact with gas giants? Or is it testing a technology so advanced that humanity cannot yet comprehend it? Some researchers quietly whisper about the reflection frames as the first visible sign of intelligence, a signature, a fingerprint of an entity watching from the stars. And still, the light continues to change. On some nights, the object glows in short, sharp bursts. Other times, it shimmers slowly, almost as if breathing. The frames captured across different telescopes begin to correlate, revealing sequences that span hours, like a narrative written in light. Every pattern adds to the mystery, deepening the fear and fascination in equal measure. In private briefings, scientists admit the unspoken truth. No natural explanation fits all the data. They're looking at something that seems alive, or at least guided by intelligence. And the closer it gets to Jupiter, the more the reflections align with the planet's storms. As if 3I Atlas is preparing for its ultimate act, an interaction that may change everything humanity knows. About the solar system, the object's unusual reflections now dominate the conversation among astronomers and enthusiasts alike. Social media buzzes with speculation. Some claim to see letters, numbers, or symbols hidden in the sequences. Others urge caution, fearing that interpreting the signals could provoke a response. The line between curiosity and dread becomes thin. But the light continues to shine, teasing answers just out of reach. For now, all humanity can do is watch. Every observation brings new data, new questions, and a growing sense of urgency. 31A TLAS is no longer just a visitor. It is an active presence, a silent messenger whose intentions remain inscrutable. And with March 16, 2026 approaching, Every frame of reflection might be a clue to something far larger than a comet, far more profound than anything we've ever encountered. As the reflections from 3IATLAS continue to mystify scientists, a network of independent astronomers begins to notice something else. Faint rhythmic pulses in the radio spectrum coming from the same region of space. These aren't ordinary cosmic signals, the kind produced by distant stars or random solar bursts. They're structured, repeating, and unmistakably deliberate. Across the globe, amateur astronomers start sharing their findings in online forums. Groups in Canada, Europe, and the United States coordinate observations, creating what they call the listening field. Using small radio dishes and modified satellite antennas, they begin to track these pulses consistently. Every 47 minutes, a signal appears, almost like a heartbeat echoing through the void. Scientists who initially dismissed these observations as noise are now paying attention. The regularity of the pulses suggests intentionality. It isn't just random interference or natural emissions. It's as if 3I Atlas is aware it is being observed, responding in kind. The pattern seems to communicate, or at least acknowledge, the observers on Earth. Within the listening field, tension and excitement run high. Some members believe they are capturing data, the first tangible proof that an object from another star is transmitting information to us. Others are cautious, warning that misinterpretation could lead to panic or misunderstanding. Yet, despite the uncertainty, everyone involved feels the weight of the discovery. The pulses correspond with the object's light reflections. On nights when 3IATLAS shines in unusual patterns, the radio signals spike. When the object dims, the pulses fade. This connection suggests a level of sophistication that surpasses natural phenomena. It's as if the object is orchestrating a dual-channel message using both light and radio waves. And we are only beginning to decipher it. The listening field members start developing rudimentary translations, trying to find meaning in the rhythm. Some sequences match prime numbers, others mirror patterns of planetary motion. It's subtle, cryptic, and profoundly unsettling. Could this be a message, a warning, or something else entirely? The more they decode, the more the mystery deepens. Word spreads, quietly, into mainstream scientific circles, while official agencies remain tight-lipped. Whispers of the listening field reach NASA and other space organizations. Internal memos suggest concern over the object's increasing proximity to Jupiter. Could these signals indicate preparation, guidance, or even control? The notion that an interstellar object might be deliberately communicating with Earth is no longer science fiction, and the deeper astronomers look, the stranger it becomes. The pulses are not just radio waves. Their frequency resonates with Earth's own magnetic field. This unexpected alignment amplifies the unease. Whatever is producing these signals seems to understand us, our planet, our environment, and perhaps even our presence. The implications are staggering. Despite skepticism from some corners of the scientific community, the listening field grows. More astronomers, hobbyists, and even students join the effort, pooling their data, refining observations, and expanding coverage. Nights turn into weeks of tracking, as every pulse, every flash of light, and every change in trajectory is meticulously logged. The consensus among these independent observers is chilling. 3I Atlas isn't just passing through, it is actively engaging with its environment, testing responses, and communicating. The idea that it could be intelligent, or at least controlled by an intelligence, is no longer a wild theory. It's the most plausible explanation for the behaviors being documented. As March 2026 looms closer, the listening field becomes humanity's silent watchtower, a coalition of eyes and ears attuned to the subtle signals from an object that defies comprehension. Scientists and amateurs alike brace for what might happen when 3IATLAS encounters Jupiter. Every pulse, every flash of light could be a clue, and the world waits, united in curiosity and fear, for the answers that may come from this interstellar visitor. Asterisk, as the listening field continues to track 3IATLAS, a new, unsettling pattern begins to emerge. The signals aren't just random radio pulses. Anymore, they're resonating at frequencies that align almost perfectly with Earth's own magnetic field. Every spike, every rhythm, seems to echo the invisible energy that wraps around our planet. Like the object somehow knows we are here and is interacting with our very environment. Scientists observing the data are both fascinated and deeply uneasy. This isn't merely a technical anomaly or a coincidence. The alignment suggests an unprecedented level of awareness, a comprehension of Earth's position, its magnetic resonance, and potentially the life forms inhabiting it. If 3I Atlas were just a natural rock, these frequencies should be meaningless. Yet they are clearly tuned, almost as if someone or something is deliberately testing, probing, or communicating the effect on the public. Once whispers of these discoveries leaked online is electric. Discussions erupt on forums and social media. Everyone from amateur astronomers to curious laypeople debates what it could mean. Some suggest intelligence, others insist it's still a natural phenomenon. But deep down, even the skeptics feel an undeniable tension. The object is no longer distant and indifferent. It seems aware of our presence, and that realization is profoundly unnerving. For the first time, scientists begin using language they had previously avoided: fear. Not fear of impact, not fear of a collision, but fear of the unknown. The possibility that this object is not just moving with purpose, but also actively monitoring. Earth shakes long-held assumptions about our place in the universe. It raises questions about control, intention, and the very nature of intelligence. Every observation magnifies the anxiety. When Earth-based magnetic fluctuations spike, so do the pulses from 3IATLAS. The correlation is too precise to ignore. It's as if the object is responding to our planet's natural rhythms, almost as if testing our reactions. This isn't passive observation. It is interaction on a scale humanity has never experienced. Meanwhile, the listening field begins comparing their data with earlier anomalies recorded by NASA's Psyche probe, linking the radio pulses to the sudden blackouts and mysterious readings near the object. The more patterns emerge, the more it seems that nothing about 3I Atlas is random. Even its reflections of light, the unusual flashes catalogued by astronomers, appear synchronized with the magnetic resonance, creating a feedback loop that grows increasingly hard to explain. Some theorists suggest that if the object can tune itself to Earth's magnetic frequencies, it might be capable of far more than we can currently measure. Could it manipulate environments, steer itself with precision, or even convey information in ways that we can't yet comprehend? These questions keep scientists awake at night. Every simulation conducted shows anomalies that defy conventional physics, leaving more questions than answers. The psychological weight of this realization begins to take hold. Space, which had always felt distant and untouchable, suddenly feels closer, almost intrusive. Humanity, For the first time, senses it might not be the passive observer of the cosmos we always assumed. 3.1 ATLAS, through its rhythm and resonance, seems to be reminding us that we are being watched, or at least acknowledged. Even governments are starting to notice. While official statements remain calm and technical, behind closed doors, agencies are monitoring every signal with heightened attention. Security briefings, data protocols, and communications restrictions all hint at a level of concern that the public has yet to fully grasp. Something about this object triggers instinctive apprehension, even among those trained to remain rational and analytical. As March 16, 2026 approaches, the alignment of signals, pulses, and magnetic resonance grows more pronounced. The object's presence is no longer a distant curiosity. It's a subtle, persistent force interacting with Earth on an invisible yet undeniable level. Scientists call it the frequency of fear, the moment when observation becomes awareness, and awareness becomes something we can feel deep in our bones. The world stands on edge, glued to every update, every waveform, every anomaly recorded in the silence of night. 3.1 ATLAS is no longer just a comet, it is a presence. And whatever it is doing, whatever it intends, the universe has just made it clear, we are no longer alone in how we are perceived. As the signals from 3.1 ATLAS grow more precise and unnerving, a different kind of silence begins to take shape, the kind that speaks louder than any alarm. Space agencies around the world, from NASA to the European Space Agency, suddenly become unusually quiet. Daily updates slow, press briefings are delayed, and official statements feel rehearsed, almost mechanical. Where curiosity and transparency once thrived, now there's a palpable sense of containment. Amateur astronomers and independent observatories notice it first. Requests for telescope time are suddenly restricted. Public databases that once allowed anyone to track interstellar objects are now partially closed. Journalists report that scientists under contract with government agencies have been told to limit speculation and avoid public commentary. The message is clear. Something about 3.1 Atlas demands control, even secrecy. Insiders, speaking off the record, hint at a phenomenon known internally as signal containment. According to them, the unusual alignment of 3.1 ATLAS with Earth's magnetic field and its rhythmic pulses triggered emergency protocols. Every observation, every radio transmission, is being filtered through a chain of scrutiny designed to prevent panic, misinformation, or exposure of what may be an unprecedented event. This silence, however, has the opposite effect. The lack of information breeds tension, and speculation runs wild. Forums, social media, and amateur research groups buzz with theories ranging from advanced alien probes to secret government experiments gone wrong. Some suggest that what we see is only the tip of the iceberg, that classified satellites and covert observatories are already tracking the object in ways the public cannot access. The contrast between official calm and the mounting data is stark. While astronomers quietly analyze the strange reflections and rhythmic signals, the world hears almost nothing. For many, the silence itself is more alarming than any potential threat 3.1 Atlas could pose. It's as if humanity is being kept in the dark on purpose, waiting for a moment when the truth can no longer be contained. Inside control rooms, the tension is palpable. Teams work around the clock, running simulations of every possible trajectory, interaction, and outcome. Every minor anomaly is scrutinized, every signal measured against countless models. Some experts worry openly that revealing the true behavior of 3i Atlas could trigger public panic or disrupt global trust in science and government. Others argue that transparency is essential, yet the silence persists. Meanwhile, the rhythm of 3i Atlas continues, unbothered by human curiosity or restriction. It pulses, reflects, and aligns with the Earth's magnetic resonance as if mocking the barriers we place. Every attempt to interpret or predict its behavior seems to fall short. The more controlled the response, the more obvious it becomes that the object is beyond ordinary comprehension. This unusual silence also fuels a sense of inevitability. Observers can feel it. The closer 3i Atlas approaches Jupiter, the more the world's silence amplifies the tension. The quiet is no longer just procedural. It is anticipatory. Scientists, governments, and even the public sense that an unprecedented moment is approaching, and that when it arrives, it will be impossible to ignore. For those watching the skies, the government's hush only deepens the mystery. It raises questions about what we are allowed to know and what is deliberately withheld. Is it fear of the unknown, fear of public reaction, or perhaps fear of something even greater, something that challenges the boundaries of human understanding? Whatever the reason, the silence itself becomes a character in this unfolding story, heavy, deliberate, and charged with unspoken urgency. Every telescope pointed toward 3i Atlas becomes a reminder of how much is at stake. The world waits, watching shadows of information pass through tightly controlled channels, and in that vacuum of knowledge, the imagination runs wild. The unknown grows larger, and the presence of the object looms ever closer, a silent but unmistakable force moving toward its final, enigmatic target. In this silence, fear is amplified. The signals, the reflections, the rhythms all are left to echo in the minds of those who are watching, quietly amplifying the sense that something extraordinary is about to unfold. Humanity waits, uncertain, while the object continues its steady, deliberate approach, and the silence of those in control becomes almost as unnerving as the object itself, as the silence from governments and space agencies stretches on. A split emerges among the scientific community. On one side are the cautious observers, insisting that 3i Atlas is a natural, if extremely rare, cosmic phenomenon. They point to the object's trajectory, the patterns of light reflection, and the seemingly random pulses as unusual but ultimately explainable through physics and cosmic chance. For them, the excitement lies in studying a once-in-a-lifetime interstellar visitor, not in imagining anything beyond nature. Yet, across labs and observatories worldwide, another group of scientists voices a far more unsettling perspective. They cannot ignore the possibility that 3i Atlas is no ordinary rock. Its precise adjustments in trajectory, the rhythmic signals, and the way it interacts with electromagnetic fields suggest some whisper the word intelligent, an idea so radical that most hesitate to discuss it openly, yet cannot dismiss it. Debates flare in quiet hallways, in online research forums, and in private conference calls. Heated arguments revolve around the same core question: is this an extraordinary natural event, or the work of something deliberate? The cautious scientists urge patience, advocating for more data before jumping to conclusions. Meanwhile, the others argue that waiting too long could mean missing the first clear evidence of intelligence beyond Earth. This divide is more than theoretical. It colors how research is conducted, how resources are allocated, and how data is shared. Teams aligned with the natural explanation camp focus on refining models of interstellar objects, measuring gravitational interactions, and simulating Jupiter's magnetic influence. Those leaning toward intelligence study patterns, frequencies, and reflections as if decoding a message, scanning for regularities that might reveal intent. Publicly, the debate is muted. Press releases remain carefully neutral, avoiding speculation. But behind the scenes, tensions are rising. Younger astronomers, excited by the possibility of something unprecedented, often clash with senior researchers who warn against drawing conclusions that could provoke panic or ridicule. Conferences are filled with whispered theories and cautious nods. The line between curiosity and fear is razor-thin. Amateur astronomers add another layer, armed with high-powered backyard telescopes, software for signal analysis, and relentless curiosity. They track every pulse and flash, from 3I ATLAS. Some even claim to see repeated patterns that match the professional observations, lending credibility to the intelligent design theory. But because their work exists outside formal institutions, it is often dismissed, even when their findings align with those of mainstream scientists. The divide grows sharper as simulations predict the object's approach toward Jupiter. One camp emphasizes the likelihood of capture by Jupiter's gravity or magnetic forces, seeing the event as a natural experiment unfolding in real time. The other warns that if the object is indeed intelligent, interacting with Jupiter could trigger unknown outcomes, a cascade of events no one can fully predict. Amid the arguments, a shared undercurrent of awe persists. Regardless of theory, everyone agrees that 3IA TLAS is extraordinary. It has defied expectations, challenged models, and forced humanity to confront the limits of its understanding. Scientists who normally work in isolation find themselves communicating across continents, comparing notes, and sometimes reconsidering long-held assumptions as the object edges ever closer to the giant planet. The divide isn't just academic, it becomes existential. If it is natural, humanity witnesses a rare cosmic visitor. If it is intentional, the implications ripple across philosophy, technology, and even religion. Every observation, every calculation, every pattern analyzed could tip the balance between understanding and fear. In this tension-filled environment, 3-1 ATLAS moves forward, indifferent to debate. Its path is precise, its presence undeniable. Scientists on both sides of the divide are forced to watch, analyze, and anticipate, knowing that whichever theory proves correct, history will remember this moment as the point when humanity first encountered something truly beyond its comprehension. And as March 16, 2026, draws near, the divide sharpens further. Not just among scientists, but across the entire world. A quiet anticipation grows, a sense that the universe is about to reveal a secret that might challenge everything we think we know about intelligence, life, and our place in the cosmos. As the debate rages among scientists, another layer of speculation begins to take hold. What if both sides are partially right? Some researchers are starting to consider that 3I Atlas might be more than a simple object drifting through space and more than a natural cosmic anomaly. It could be a vessel of some kind, designed with purpose, yet still governed by the laws of physics. This idea sparks even more intense discussion. One prominent theory suggests that 3I Atlas could be an ancient probe, left behind by a civilization so old that humans can barely imagine it. Perhaps it was sent centuries, or even millennia ago, and is now reactivating after a long dormancy. Its calculated movements, its reflective surface, and the rhythmic signals it emits all seem to support the possibility that this is a message, or even a mission in motion. Another line of thought takes a darker, more mysterious turn. Some scientists hypothesize that the object might be a carrier, delivering something to Jupiter, or perhaps retrieving something buried within the planet's storm-laden atmosphere. The speculation alone is enough to make seasoned astronomers uneasy. Jupiter's magnetosphere is powerful, volatile, and largely uncharted in terms of how it could interact with an object of unknown composition or intent. The theories collide not only in labs, but across simulations. Teams run endless models trying to predict the object's behavior as it approaches Jupiter. Some simulations show the object being captured and held in orbit by the planet's magnetic field. Others suggest it could skim past, unaffected, and continue deeper into the solar system. But a few simulations hint at something far stranger: the possibility of an energy release, a burst of electromagnetic activity, or an interaction with Jupiter's atmosphere unlike anything ever observed. Meanwhile, amateur astronomers and private researchers continue to track every faint pulse, every flash of reflected light, and every slight change in trajectory. Some claim to see patterns that suggest coding, almost like the object is communicating in a way that transcends conventional radio signals. The repetition of these patterns, combined with its calculated path toward the giant planet, fuels the belief that this is not random. At conferences, debates grow heated. Some argue that humanity might be witnessing the arrival of intelligence on a scale we have never encountered. Others caution against overinterpreting the data, warning that human minds are wired to see patterns, even when none exist. Yet even skeptics cannot deny that something unusual is happening, something that challenges our understanding of physics, probability, and the very nature of the universe. The collision of theories creates an atmosphere of both excitement and fear. News outlets cautiously report on the approaching object, while social media explodes with speculation. Blogs and forums discuss the potential implications. Could this be a probe from an alien civilization? Could it be delivering life, technology, or information? Or is it simply a cosmic fluke, a rock behaving in ways we have yet to fully understand? Through it all, 3I-ATLAS continues on its precise trajectory, indifferent to the human debate swirling around it. Its movements, signals, and reflections remain consistent, almost as if it knows it is being observed. Scientists find themselves racing against time to decode what it might be trying to do, while simultaneously preparing for the unknown consequences of its passage near Jupiter. The theories collide not just in academia, but in imagination. What happens if the object is intentionally interacting with Jupiter's magnetic field to accomplish a specific task? What if the rhythmic signals are a form of instruction or data transfer? These questions blur the line between science, philosophy, and speculative fiction, yet the evidence, strange as it is, demands attention. And as the days count down toward March 16th, the tension builds. Simulations continue to refine the object's path, signals are analyzed for hidden messages, and scientists on all sides brace themselves for a moment that might redefine humanity's understanding of intelligence, life, and the universe. 3I Atlas is moving forward, carrying all these possibilities within its silent, unyielding trajectory. Whether it is a relic of an ancient civilization, a vessel delivering unknown content, or something else entirely. One thing is clear: what unfolds at Jupiter will be unlike anything we have ever seen, and every theory, no matter how improbable, will be tested by the reality of its approach. The countdown has begun, and the tension in the scientific community is palpable. Every telescope trained on the sky, every simulation run, every tiny signal analyzed has led to this moment. March 16th, 2026 is not just another date on the calendar. For the first time in recorded history, an object from beyond our solar system, 3I ATLAS, will approach a planet so powerful and unpredictable that even seasoned astronomers cannot fully predict the outcome. Jupiter is more than a planet. It is a cosmic force, a giant swirling with storms and magnetism strong enough to bend the path of any object that dares to pass nearby. And 3I Atlas is moving toward it with a precision that feels almost deliberate. Across the globe, scientists are on edge. Every angle is being considered, every possibility weighed. Some simulations suggest that 3I Atlas will be captured by Jupiter's vast magnetic field, held in orbit like a satellite around a planet-sized magnet. Others propose a more dramatic scenario, where the object passes through the magnetosphere and interacts with the planet's atmosphere in ways no one has ever observed. There is even speculation that this interstellar traveler could release something, energy, material, or information that has been carried across the stars for untold centuries. The uncertainty is electrifying, but it is also terrifying. In laboratories, observatories, and even private homes, people are watching the countdown clock. Amateur astronomers, long fascinated by anomalies in the skies, track every faint pulse and reflective shimmer. Scientists at major space agencies are running their models in real time, trying to anticipate what will happen when 3I ATLAS reaches its closest approach. Each calculation seems to raise more questions than it answers. Will it be a simple pass, a quiet encounter with Jupiter's magnetic field, or will it trigger something that no one can fully predict? The signals from the object add another layer of mystery. Faint pulses continue to emanate from the same region of space, repeating in patterns that some researchers believe could be a form of communication. The rhythm of these signals is precise, almost intentional, and it aligns eerily with simulations of the planet's own magnetic resonance. It is as if the object not only knows it is being watched, but is reacting to our presence, anticipating the attention of every telescope trained on it. Scientists debate endlessly. Is it a message, a warning, or simply a cosmic coincidence? In the days leading up to the encounter, the world watches quietly, a mix of anticipation and anxiety hanging in the air. Media outlets cautiously report developments, often hedging their words to avoid panic, while forums and social media explode with speculation. Some voices warn of danger, suggesting that the object could trigger unforeseen reactions in Jupiter's magnetosphere, or even in the solar system at large. Others suggest that this could be a historic opportunity, a chance to observe, for the first time, an intelligent artifact from beyond our own star system, a messenger from the depths of space with secrets waiting to be revealed. Scientists speak in hushed tones during conferences, fully aware of the stakes. They discuss the possibility that 3I ATLAS is a probe, intentionally designed to survive the journey across interstellar distances, equipped with the knowledge to navigate complex gravitational fields. The idea is both thrilling and unnerving, if true. Humanity may be witnessing the arrival of intelligence far older and wiser than our own. Some researchers speculate that the object may be here to study us, or perhaps to deliver a message specifically to our solar system. The implications are staggering. The countdown becomes more than just a measure of time. It becomes a reflection of humanity's curiosity, fear, and hope. Each tick of the clock is a reminder of how small we are in the vast expanse of space, yet how capable we have become at observing and understanding phenomena once considered beyond our reach. There is a sense of unity, too, as people around the world, regardless of nationality or background, focus on the same distant point in the sky, collectively holding their breath as they await the unknown. The final simulations suggest that as 3-1 Atlas enters Jupiter's magnetosphere, the planet's immense electromagnetic energy could interact with the object in unpredictable ways. Magnetic fields may twist and bend around it. Charged particles may dance along its surface, and energy bursts could ripple outward, visible to instruments sensitive enough to detect them. The potential for discovery is immense, but so is the risk of misinterpretation or unexpected consequences. Every scientist, from the most optimistic to the most cautious, knows that this moment could redefine our understanding of the universe and our place within it.